All right, I'm going to talk about neonatal resuscitation for my reflective journal entry. So, my experience with neonatal resuscitation is pretty limited. I've taken NRP several times over the last 5 years. I usually choose to take the course at my local hospital, and the reason I do this is for a couple of reasons. So, I am trying to build bridges with our local nursing staff. And also, they have been really great to tailor the training to me. When they found out I was a midwife and I'd be doing home births, they had me tell them what equipment I had and didn't have with me, and they went through the resuscitation with just the equipment that I would have, which was really fantastic. So they adapted to my needs, which I think is great. I've only participated in NRP in any sort of way in real life a handful of times, and none of those so far have had any chest compressions. The most intense resuscitation that I participated in, the baby was born in the water and took one initial breath when it was brought up out of the water, and then didn't take another breath. And so we started to dry and stimulate the baby. At that time, they had decent tone and grimace, but within about 30 seconds, the baby went limp and pale with its eyes still open. Because I was the one that caught the baby was in my hands, and I remember very distinctly the look on the baby's face of kind of terror. There was a good heartbeat, but no more respiratory efforts, and I could actually see the light and life leaving the baby's eyes, which was one of the scariest moments and worst feelings I've ever felt. But we stayed calm, and thankfully my preceptor was more experienced and acted quickly and calmly. The cord was still intact, so we knew the baby was still getting blood and oxygen that way. Mom was on her hands and knees facing away from us in the water, so we grabbed the ambu bag and I held the baby as flat as I could, just above the water, because everything was still attached. And my preceptor gave a few puffs of air. Baby still didn't take any breaths on their own, so she repositioned the mask and gave the baby 3 more puffs, and thankfully baby began to breathe on their own, and so we continued the rest of immediate postpartum as normal. Had mom flip over and handed her baby, continued to dry and stimulate baby and make sure that baby was going to keep breathing. So now that I have participated in a resuscitation like that, I know more of what to expect. I know how quickly things can change, and that as a midwife you need to act fast, but you also need to keep calm. In this particular case, the resuscitation equipment was close by, but not close enough. It was not within arm's reach, so we didn't anticipate needing it. There was no indications that there was going to be anything wrong with baby. There was no dystocia. Labor was normal. There was no decrease in heart tones. None of that. So, but in the future, because of this, I will definitely have my equipment closer to me, so that I can grab it right there next to the pool, next to the bed, wherever we're going to be. I'm recording right now, buddy. So that's something that I have learned as a student. And then in Alabama, all midwives and students are required by law to be certified in NRP and CPR to be able to practice legally. And it's expected that we will initiate resuscitation of a baby if it's needed, and call an ambulance for transport if the infant does not come around quickly or if chest compressions are required. Not doing something would actually bring charges against us, legal charges. So, thinking about the evidence and the research, NRP is considered the best treatment for a newborn that is struggling whose heart rate is below 100 or is not breathing adequately enough to oxygenate themselves. The NRP is taught all over the world and has been proven to save the lives of many, many babies. It is supposed to be followed step by step in order, and the main focus is on ventilation because that is usually the problem that the baby is having. Even if their heart rate is low, it's usually because they're not oxygenating well, not necessarily because of something wrong with their heart. There is a few risks with it. Obviously, overventilation can cause a pneumothorax, which would not be great, but it's better than a baby that's not breathing at all. There's also a risk of damage from doing compressions on a newborn. They can be bruised, broken ribs, damaged internal organs even. But in cases where NRP is needed, the benefits really do outweigh the risks. So that is my reflection on neonatal resuscitation.